we now go into section 3, assuming we've got all that down. We've got this like baseline figured out. We have really good data that's going to inform our strategy now. So what comes next? And what we ask a lot of our partners is like, do you know all the levers in your toolbox? Do you know everything in your toolbox, right? And this is just an example of what a toolbox might look like, your data and system map. So how many channels do you have? How do you have promotional opportunities on those channels? What is your direct book strategy, your marketing team? Do they know what your needs are, right? Your email marketing, your social strategy. What's not necessarily even part of this technology map might be, do you have other, sales partnerships with like travel agencies, right? Other like wedding venues, where are all these levers and tools in your toolbox? So knowing that, right, what is your approach to commercial strategy? And we always use this term, integrated commercial approach, because really the role of revenue management is to help tell the story, but also to help inform and be a part of like that brainstorming and marketing plan development. So, we talk about revenue management as forecasting, analytics, the distribution part, right? Understanding channels, getting your content right, because just having your price right obviously isn't enough. If everything else is wrong, you're still not going to grow or fully be optimizing. So we talk about distribution. That's a little bit more of a project management skill set, right? Like knowing what's happening with each channel, executing on content updates, understanding how to run promotions. Is that where they're in touch with all the the world of channel and content? And then your digital marketing lever is really that third one, right? And if they're part of the conversation, then you're ensuring that your all of those other strategies, right, driving direct bookings ultimately is tied into what the data is telling you. So, just this note at the bottom, and I actually still sit on the HSMAI Revenue Management Advisory Board. That's a more hotel-leaning organization. It's been around for 100 years, actually, that association.
What does HSMAI stand for?
Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International.
Aha.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But it's where I kind of keep my ear to the ground on like what's happening in hotels too, and just to see the kind of differences and just all of lodging and where things overlap. But revenue management in the hotel industry has elevated to almost one of the most important positions in an organization because of how much it drives getting all of this right. So I think it's just, again, an exciting time in our space in vacation rental because we're figuring out how the discipline fits in. And, we're seeing that it has the potential and should really follow the same path, right? How getting this right informs getting just your whole strategy, top line strategy right.
Yeah. And Heather, can you go back to the map for 1 second?
Yeah.
So is your advice here to map this out? Are there tools that people should use for this? Is it just as simple as building in a slide deck? How do you think about developing a system map? And are these all the critical components? These are kind of the foundational components. Tell us a little bit more about this systems map.
Yeah. So, if you understand how you get to channels, right? Like, how can you update all your content in your PMS and it seamlessly goes. Obviously if you are using Wheelhouse, that's your source of truth on all your pricing, length of stay restrictions, everything is managed there and it should be seamlessly integrated to all your channels. But the levers also come into play with like, have you unlocked different promotions on Airbnb? We know there's all different kinds of things that Airbnb tests, Vrbo as well with like boosting capability, what are things? The other thing that's interesting is like some things aren't even in the API. So your PMS provider, right, might say, update your content here, but Airbnb and Vrbo might have like other content areas that aren't even in the API. And so you want to log in and make sure you're like updating them in the channel. Booking.com is interesting. So if there's a channel manager switch in between, sometimes you have levers like in the switch or the channel manager, like Booking Pal, might give you some levers that inform Booking.com. Yeah. And then, kind of other niche channels, right? Like there could be opportunity to improve content. Maybe some of them are more international driven. and, staying in touch with those channels, right. And knowing what's new and what opportunities they're offering is great best practice.
And does that mean maybe that I'd have, at first I should have a high level systems map such as this? And then maybe you were just speaking to on each individual channel. Exactly. Okay.
Right. You would, it's good to know, right? Like if someone on your team would know like exactly how they all work, because it's like kind of taking an assessment of like all the tools in your toolbox, right? Yeah. Like, so you know how they all work.
Right. And I think you were sharing something just for folks who maybe haven't put together a systems map yet. Heather, how common is it for you to meet someone who has an accurate systems map in place?
Pretty much everybody we've worked with doesn't know the answer to some question.
Okay.
And so we help figure it out, but there's always kind of like, I'm not sure, like, let's check.
Yeah. I think in terms of tools for teams, what Heather's illustrated here is actually a really good, I think this is the first level articulation of it. I do think diving into each channel specifically is really valuable too. And what kind of content or marketing or promotion opportunities are available on those channels is really, really valuable. But I do think I would agree that if you don't have a data and systems map yet, don't feel bad. Heather can help. As you can see, this is, again, the highest level components of what your system map would look like. But thinking about communicating to ownership groups, to teammates and others who might really want to understand how you're thinking about how you're getting your prices places, how you're thinking about getting your content places, this is a really helpful tool to have. So something worthwhile building out if you don't have it yet today.
The other thing we always Wheelhouse will help ensure that you have rational pricing, right? That your pricing is nimble and it starts there, right? But lowering rate alone is not a form of promotion. So everything I talked about with channels, it's that shift of like, okay, I can discount rates. And what does that mean if I'm running like promotions? And those are different things because promotions come with additional merchandising, right? And other perks and benefits. So I always like to call that out. Okay. So this is really kind of closing it out. When you get these basics, you have this well-oiled machine. You know how everything works. What next, right? What are these next level things? So obviously fees is a revenue stream that's very important. Other tracking like goal setting, forecasting, and budget. Share of wallet, so experiences or late cancel, check-in, check-out. This as another revenue stream. Increasing share of wallet is actually what that is. It's the concept that if someone is coming to your market, they're going to spend money on a tour. How do you get a piece of that? It's increasing your share of their wallet. Direct book strategy, just again, like as you're developing your brand, you don't want to, cut off demand from channels, but there's also an opportunity for you to, drive direct, which can lead to more profit in your pocket. And then this next level, and I don't know, Andrew, it's funny, like you were like, make this graduate and make this PhD. So we put these in this category, the distribution costs, right? And this gets into like, why does book direct matter? Does it matter? Providing book direct advantage and channel mix, cost of acquisition, and really understanding, right? Like down to where do you have credit card fees, commission versus, host fee, whatever, right? Tying that all together. Top of funnel is definitely, predictive data to inform being a first mover, like we talked about airline or demand IQ. And then attribute modeling. This is really, and some of you may kind of do this on some level already, right? Understanding like if you have a hot tub, what is the value of that? And then do you want to use some of this analytics to inform like having owners add hot tubs, right? Or helping them buy the hot tub, those kinds of things, or condensing them to be pet friendly. That's kind of next level stuff. Anything on this, Andrew? Did I go too fast?
No, the reason I think there are college and post-grad courses on revenue management. This stuff is really hard. And I think you can get all that in kind of an accelerated format with Heather, of course. They can help with all of these things. Heather and her team, she's had a great team. But I do want to stress that I think what Heather and I were kind of excited about is, look, we're trying to build some foundations here. First, thinking about the right comp set. And Emery asked us a question, which I'm going to ask you in a second about, how do you get kind of the right, make sure you have the right data for this, but you got to get the right comp set. You then need to get the kind of figure out through RevPAR index how you're performing against that comp set or against your market, right? And that's really setting you up for the next level of a commercial organization, which is here. And the commercial organizations, these are large functions in hotels, right? They report to the board. These are the organizations that this is kind of a never-ending pursuit, the way to drive and maximize revenue from your portfolio. But I would say, even though these things might look intimidating, analyzing, for example, attribute modeling, probably not something that everyone's doing on this call. Really hard. Need a specialty skill for that to some degree. But if you get the other parts right, I would say, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think if you get the other parts of the right comp set, and you're paying attention to RevPAR index, and even if you're just starting to think about systems mapping, you're probably getting to a pretty good place, right? With having the right pieces there to drive revenue. Is that fair? Or do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, that's why we really say that our minimum, once we engage to work with someone, it's about 3 months. In a 3-month period, we just help you go through all that stuff to help you land on, kind of that stabilization of what was kind of section 1 and 2 of this. Yeah.
And if I do have time, so Emery asked a question. The question is, how can we overcome the challenge of market data accuracy while calculating RevPAR index?
So maybe what you're referring to is the concept of scrape data versus authoritative data. And scrape data is imperfect in that you're getting, directionally good information, but you do have to somewhat take things with a grain of salt. We talk a lot about where there might be holes in different data. So I'll maybe use an example. So in a market, key data might be super great for the larger homes in that market. But if your portfolio has a lot of smaller studios or 1-bedrooms, maybe when you look at it, you're not able to get access to enough. Maybe it's because all of that supply is run by owners, not as professionally managed, whatever the reason is, right? So it might be you still want to do that. So you might have to use a different data source, right? Wheelhouse would be a source, obviously, to do that. So maybe there's a combination view that you develop because you come to a realization of where the holes in the data are. We also talk a lot about validating, when we're using any scrape data, we say okay, is it Airbnb? Is it Vrbo? Are fees included or not? Should we make an assumption about that the CompSet is marking up rate on the channel like we are, but their direct book rate is actually going to be here? And if you talk about it right, and you kind of, again, develop your narrative, what is the story of your market, the supply, the data sources, you can get to a place that so then when you're benchmarking, you just know, right? Here's how we're going to view this. I thought that was helpful.
Wheelhouse, we obviously have a lot of data too, but one of the reasons we were excited to pair with Key Data is we think our data sets actually will go together very nicely. Key Data has a lot of these large operators, particularly in sun and snow destinations, and they have really deep and extensive historic data. But we really like what they bring to the table as a partner there. So in terms of overcoming the data accuracy challenges, my way of thinking about this too, Heather, is I don't know that you need to be 100% accurate to directionally understand what a market is doing, right? And I think with Wheelhouse, I would say between your market report and your comp set, you're probably going to get a really strong sense directionally of where you need to be. And even if it's imperfect, and I'll name that, I don't think there's no data set in the STR space as comprehensive as what the hotel space has yet. right? It's coming, but it's probably still 2 years away. And we can talk more in another conversation about why. But I think it's a good question, Emery. I think the overcoming the challenge of data accuracy, I would say, look at a couple sources, key data, Wheelhouse, et cetera. Look at us in conjunction. I do think on your CompSet on the Wheelhouse site, you're able to export all that data now too. So if you wanted to kind of export it, run your own RevPAR calculations, and then kind of over time see how accurate and informative it was, we definitely would invite you to do that. John also asked a question, Heather. Are there any data sources in the STR space where we can access RevPARs to calculate RevPAR index?
Well, any data source that just calculates RevPAR for you, right? You could use that. But ultimately, sometimes on data sources, you have to make assumptions about price, like what is the on the books rate versus what's the rate shop, what's selling, right? And there can be a difference too between like rates being sold in the market and rates, rate shops. I don't know if that makes sense. I guess there's not an exact answer to that because you do have to kind of ask those questions, right, to figure out how you want to build out the formula. Is that helpful? Maybe ask another question to clarify. Maybe
what I'll show quickly, I just want to show for John and Emery too. I'm going to share my screen for a second here. Okay. I'm going to share a demo account. So unfortunately, this will just show you. We won't have data for this listing because this listing actually, again, it's a hypothetical listing, which means my data here won't show anything. So if you go to your Wheelhouse CompSet, right, which you can reach from a number of ways, but I'll just walk you through it. If you're on your dashboard, if you clicked on a sample property, or click on any property of yours, you'll now be able to see this CompSet, right? If I were to click into the CompSet, and again, it's going to look a little less interesting because there isn't any occupancy in real data here, only asking rates on a fake property. However, I can toggle over to performance. I can look at things like RevPAR, and what I can actually do, I don't know if you know this, but I can select all this information, and I'm going to right click on this, and I'm actually able to export all of this data. So Heather and our team are actually working with a customer now where this exporting functionality is being put into use. So that means you can export data now from our market reports, you can export it from our comp sets, you can export it from our dashboard, and you can run all the tests you want. So John, if you wanted to get a data source where you could access RevPARs and calculate your RevPAR index, you can do so here. Now you're going to need to run an additional query or kind of like set this up in another spreadsheet. We can help with that. So please reach out to us if you have questions there. But additionally, RevPAR index is so valuable. I want to continue working with Heather and her team to bring some of that capabilities in the tooling for you all, so you can see that more easily, because it is something we could calculate for you all. So in the interim, in the next few months here, you can export it. You can use all your own data. Again, this is the CompSet tools. It's live as of a couple weeks ago, and the way I got to it was from my dashboard. I clicked on the listing, and I clicked on the CompSet here. I could also go to the CompSet dashboard, and now I'm going to see all of my listings, all of my CompSets, and I'm going to see, again, the RevPAR. These are all demo properties. You'll see real data for you. But that's another place to go. At least look at your RevPAR, which is one of the key things to figuring out your RevPAR index. So hopefully that helped a little bit as well, but it is available. There's some of this functionality is available today in the tool, and hopefully you can use it. Heather, we're past time.
I know. I just realized.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm going to just quickly share this so folks can see how to find us. Yes, this has been fun. I mean, obviously, we'll continue to partner. Ultimately, these are the steps, right? Get your business process right, your views of data and configuration right, and then it's beginning your journey eating competition's lunch. And just a little recap of who we are. Obviously, we're here. Like, talk to us for free, right? Just like give us a ring. Happy to brainstorm and just do a quick discovery call. But then if you are looking for help, especially in Wheelhouse, right, or in Key Data too, with just how do you want to use the tool and get it set up, we can help you with just that. And then obviously our goal is to have long-term partners to help you succeed, in the long run. So I think with that, yeah. In closing, Andrew, I don't know if you want to wrap. I'll stop sharing here.
If you want to go, there's one more slide, I believe.
Yep.
It should be our contact information. I think, first of all, Heather, thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to kind of take lessons you've learned, that you and your team have learned over 25 years, and share them out with folks. I think it's a really compassionate thing. The way you educate people is really second to none. So hopefully today, I know we stepped through CompSet benchmarking 101. There's a lot there, but Heather, fair to say getting a foundational CompSet is extremely critical. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The stepping through RevPAR index, truly, I do believe this is the metric you need to know. I think Heather's team is fantastic at it. They'll share a lot more. Not easy to learn in 15 minutes, but I'm sure you all did great with that today. And then of course, we're just setting up the foundation for the larger building revenue and management function, right? There's a lot you can do. You want the right prices distributed at the right places, targeting the right customers at the right time. And it's a complicated system that you're building here. So thank you all for enjoying the journey with us. Heather, on the next slide, we just left your contact information as well. If you have questions for Heather, please reach out, Heather at Richard Logic. You can also reach out to our team if you need help with any aspect of CompSets or other things, or you want to learn more about Wheelhouse and our capabilities, sales@usewheelhouse.com. But Heather, thank you so much. Any last words of wisdom for us?
I guess I would just say, it's a journey. So, if you're on this call, you're obviously taking it seriously and you're off to a great start. And as an industry, we have a ways to go, but it's exciting to be part of it. So more collaboration, I'm sure, with you in the future, Andrew. I look forward to that. And look forward to hearing from anyone on the line. So feel free to reach out. Yeah, thanks for that, Amelia. So, okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather. Amazing. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll share the materials after this, so you have a video of Heather. You can step through it at your leisure. If you have any feedback or questions, you know where to reach us. And otherwise, be well all. We appreciate your time today.
All right. Talk soon. Thanks.
Bye. All.